So hello everyone. To get started with today's lesson, I wanted to do a quick fun activity to kind of get the brain flowing, the juices flowing. And so what I want everybody to do is to go ahead and stand up. So everybody stand up for me, get stretched out, do whatever you need to do. And the first thing I want you to do is think of a state, but not just any state. You can't pick Florida. I know we all love Florida. We can be biased to it. We've got the Disney World, we've got the theme parks, we've got the beaches and all the sunshine. So pick a state besides Florida. I know you love Florida, but it can be any state. So take a quick sec to think, and then I'll call one by one, and then I'll tell you what to do next. So, Jason. Jason has a state in mind. What do you have? So Jason says Georgia. So we're going to put Jason to this side of the room. How about you, Alicia? Okay, good. So Alicia's going to pick Colorado. Go to this side. Michael. Michael says Alabama. We're going to send you over this way. Rachel. So Rachel's going to say Georgia. You like Georgia? It's pretty close to Florida. Almost the same thing, but not really. But you can come on over this way. So now that I've got the class split up into two parts, can anyone tell me, does anyone have an idea of why you're split up into these two parts, or have any predictions they'd like to make? Okay, kind of, some picked southern states, some picked maybe the West Coast. Okay, that can be one option. Anyone else have any more guesses? No? Okay. So the reason I put you into two separate sides is the state you chose could technically be the state you would be fighting for in the Civil War. So over here we've got, our Georgias, Carolinas, Alabama. Those fought for the southern states in the Confederacy. Then over here we've got, the Colorado, the California, all those states. Those are states that fought for the Union. So can anyone tell me any facts that they may know about their particular side? Rachel, oh good Rachel. So Rachel says her side fought against slavery. So that would be correct. The Union was fighting against slavery. Jason says all he knows about his side is that he would have fought for the South. So good. Those are some good, kind of predictions as to why we split it up. Some good qualities of both the North and the South. So what I want to do next, everybody return to your seats. And what we're going to do is get into today's lesson. So with today's lesson, what I want us to do is we're going to be given two passages on the same topic. With those passages, we're going to kind of integrate the information. We're going to gather the main ideas, some supporting details, some key vocabulary, go over some key similarities and differences. We're going to take all that information and integrate it so that we're able to talk about the subject knowledgeably or write about the subject knowledgeably. So what I'm going to do is first, we're going to gather two articles. So I've got two articles here on the Civil War. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pass one out to everybody in the class. Take one. And we're going to read it together. I'm going to kind of show you how we can integrate the information, the main ideas, supporting details and evidence, key vocabulary, so on and so forth. So I'll pass that out. Now that everyone has one, I want you to take a look at the front of the class. On the board here, I have written some key vocabulary. Don't worry about the definitions. I just want you guys to look at the key vocabulary I have here. I've got the American Civil War, got Confederacy, Union, and slaveholding. So kind of keep those in mind. Don't get too carried away with the definitions yet. We'll be going over those. But let's get on with the reading. So, do I have any volunteers to begin reading? Okay, good, Jason. So, go ahead. So, for the sake of time, I'll go ahead and read this here. So, it goes. The first article, the first passage. The Civil War in the United States began in 1861. After decades of simmering tensions between northern and southern states over slavery states' rights and westward expansion. The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860 caused 7 southern states to secede and form the Confederate States of America. 4 more states soon joined them. The war between the states, as the Civil War was also known, ended in Confederate surrender in 1865. The conflict was the costliest and deadliest war ever fought on American soil, with some 620,000 of 2.4 million soldiers killed, millions more injured, and much of the South left in ruin. So there's our first article there. So take a second to pause, think about it, before we continue on to our second article. So, any more volunteers to read the second one? Okay, good. For the sake of time, I'll go ahead and read it. The Civil War is the central event in America's historical consciousness. While the Revolution of 1776 to 1783 created the United States, the Civil War of 1861 to 1865 determined what kind of nation it would be. The war resolved 2 fundamental questions left unsolved by the Revolution. 1. Whether the United States was to be a dissolvable confederation of sovereign states, or 2. An indivisible nation with a sovereign national government. And whether this nation, born of a declaration that all men were created with an equal right to liberty, would continue to exist as the largest slaveholding country in the world. The Civil War started because of uncompromising differences between the free and slave states over the power of the national government to prohibit slavery in the territories that had not yet become states. When Abraham Lincoln won election in 1860 as the first Republican president on a platform pledging to keep slavery out of the territories, 7 slave states in the Deep South seceded and formed a new nation, the Confederate States of America. So there we have our 2 passages. Now going back to the vocabulary here, did any of these words pop up in the passages we read? Yeah, good. So the American Civil War definitely did. So what does that tell us about the American Civil War? Does anyone have any guess as to what the definition may be? Yeah, so it was a large conflict. And the text tells us that it took place in, we'll go back and look up our text, 1861 to 1865. Anything else we saw? Well, definitely in that last passage, we saw slaveholding. So slaveholding, a slaveholding state, well, all that means is allowing slavery. Now, we may know the Confederacy and the Union from prior knowledge. It's also listed in the passages. We get those words as well. So the Union is what we know today of simply the United States, while the Confederacy are the southern states that seceded, which make up the Confederacy. So go ahead and take a couple moments, jot those down, and then we will regroup here and keep going. So now that you all have those written down, we gathered key vocabulary from the 2 passages, but now let's discuss how we can find the main idea. So the main idea, easy way to find it, you often can look in the first or last sentences of the paragraph. Sometimes it's not always that plain, so you can use things like the key vocabulary we found and kind of use that to help guide you, see what kind of evidence the vocabulary is supporting to push us towards that main idea. So, the very first sentence of the first passage reads, "The Civil War in the United States began in 1861 after decades of simmering tensions between northern and southern states over slavery, states' rights, and westward expansion." Well, that certainly sounds like a main idea to me. So decades of simmering tension between the north and southern states, slavery, and states' rights, that all contributed to the Civil War. So we could take a look at the second passage, now that we have the first passage, is main idea? Well, the first sentence of the second one is, the Civil War is the central event in America's historical consciousness. Well, that certainly sounds like a main idea. When we look at the supporting details, they're all over the place. So it's a central event. What it does here in the next sentence, it defends that it's a central event in America's historical consciousness, while saying while the Revolution created the United States, the Civil War determined what kind of nation it would be. That kind of pushes it ahead of the Revolutionary War, kind of focuses on the central point of what made America what it is today. So that is how you can find the main idea. Again, you can tie the main idea in with the key vocabulary, the supporting evidence, bring it all together, and now you can integrate the information from the two articles, and now, because they're on the same topic and kind of going for the same thing, we can talk or write about these subjects knowledgeably. Another thing we can do, get my sheets here, is we can create a simple Venn diagram. That way we can go over what's different between the articles and what's similar between the articles. Well, because our main ideas are so close, we have a lot of great similarities. So what's a good similarity? Jason. Well, Jason says they're both about the Civil War. Well, that's absolutely correct. Anyone else? Ashley. So Ashley says they both bring up the fact that it started in 1861. Another great observation. Anything else? Jessica. So Jessica says both articles state that 7 states seceded. Well, that's great. That's a lot of good information from the same article. Anybody else have any other ideas? Okay, the first article, good job, Robert, says it was the deadliest war in American history. So that is something that's different, that's not stated in the second article. So what else we got? Article 2, is there anything different? So yes, good job, Jessica. So Article 2 brings up power of the national government, which is not brought up in the first article. So there we have our Venn diagram. So that's a really easy way to kind of see the similarities, the differences, and lets us know what we can talk about that's similar between the articles, but also what's different. That way we can talk about both knowledgeably or write about them knowledgeably, which is what we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and pass out another set of passages. You'll have 2 of them. And this one is going to be on the Civil War, but much different than what we just read. So it's going to go over a focal point. So what I want you guys to do, and I'm going to hand this out to everybody. We'll pass them around. And we're going to I'm going to help guide you through getting it started, and then we're going to release into independent practice. So I've already grouped you according to past assignments that we've done. So we're each going to get into our groups of 3 or 4, depending, because I know we have a different number. So get in your groups, and then we'll go from there. So everybody's in their groups. So we're going to start with a little guided reading. So what I want to do is I'm going to read the first paragraph with you guys. We're going to go over how to find a main idea, 1 key vocabulary term, and then we're going to release you. So, the first article. The Battle of Gettysburg, fought from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, is considered the most important engagement of the American Civil War. After a great victory over Union forces at Chancellorsville, General Robert E. Lee marched his army of Northern Virginia into Pennsylvania in late June 1863. On July 1st, the advancing Confederates clashed with the Union Army of Potomac, commanded by General George G. Meade, at the crossroads town of Gettysburg. The next day saw even heavier fighting as the Confederates attacked the Federals on both the left and the right. On July 3rd, Lee ordered an attack by fewer than 15,000 troops on the enemy's center at Cemetery Ridge. The assault, known as Pickett's Charge, managed to pierce the Union lines but eventually failed at the cost of thousands of rebel casualties, and Lee was forced to withdraw his battered army toward Virginia on July 4th. So, let's review some content here. So what is a great way I can find the main idea? Ashley. Good, so Ashley says, take a look at the first or the last sentence. Well, let's take a look at the first sentence here. The Battle of Gettysburg, fought from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, is considered the most important engagement of the Civil War. That sounds like pretty much a central point to me. The last sentence says, the assault, known as Pickett's Charge, managed to pierce the Union lines, but eventually failed at the cost of thousands of rebel casualties, and Lee was forced to withdraw his battered army. So I would say the first sentence is a great main idea. The last sentence is kind of a supporting detail to that. It can also be considered one of the main ideas, but I really love that first sentence. So, the most important engagement. So, a lot of good vocabulary here we can do. So we want to find something that helps, a vocabulary word that maybe helps show why it's considered the most important engagement. So while I'm scanning here, I see casualties. So casualties means, well, someone that's either dies or injured on the battlefield. So it costs thousands of rebel casualties. That certainly sounds like an important engagement in a word to me. So finding those key vocabulary terms is crucial for the rest of this assignment and kind of gathering it into your main idea. So what I want y'all to do within your groups is you're going to go ahead and reread the first passage and go ahead and read the second passage together. I want you guys to come up with the main idea. I want you guys to come up with key vocabulary, and I want you guys to construct a Venn diagram. Then, on your own, I'm going to want you to write a 2-paragraph summary showing that you can integrate that information, main idea, key vocabulary, supporting evidence, similarities, differences, into 1 2-paragraph summary of both articles to show you have knowledge and understanding. Please be sure to include at least 2, but go for more, supporting details to support that you know this information. Once again, that'll be done, the 2-paragraph summary on your own. Guided in groups is going to be a Venn diagram like we showed here, coming up with the key vocabulary, and also coming up with the main ideas of the topic. So, I know Jose and Gabriella, you guys are going to be getting simplified images with your text. Michael, I'm gonna, once I hit the time limit, feel free if you're still going to ignore me. You got an extra few minutes, okay? So is everybody clear with the directions, or does anyone need clarification with the directions? No? Okay, everybody's good? Well, go ahead and get started. I'll be here walking around, circulating the room, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask.